Jinkala walked around the corner, into an empty corridor on the ship. She selected this route as it was a convenient shortcut between the cargo bay and the engineering section, where she needed to pick up a part to fix one of the loaders. She stopped in her tracks, as a pair of reptilian eyes faded into existence about halfway down the corridor. They were a fiery red and orange pattern, with narrow vertical slits just floating in the air. No face, no body, no visible eye stalks, just two glowing red eyes floating and staring intently at her. "Onkachala demands your soul," declared a deep and menacing voice that filled the corridor. Chinkala dropped the data slate in her claw. Before it clattered loudly on the floor, she was already screaming in terror. The eyes vanished into nothing as the hidden holoprojector powered down, and booming maniacal laughter burst from the speakers, tucked away throughout the corridor. Assistant Drive Technician Dinstik stared at Chief Engineer Amara as she entered main engineering for the start of her shift. Ordinarily, this sort of thing wouldn't be unusual or worth gaping at. After all, he had worked with the humans for nearly 6 Terran months and had gotten to know her well. Except today, she looked different. In an entirely shocking, why the hell hasn't anyone called a medic yet way. He began rapidly vibrating his vocalizer to create the words he never thought would need to come from his brain, given how the chief engineer was such a stickler for following safety protocols. Mara? Are you okay? She replied with a happy smile. I'm feeling fine. Just the usual stress. Heavy as the head that wears the crown and all that jazz. But, your head? Dzintik blurted out, which grabbed the attention of the other technicians in the room. There were murmurs of shock and distress from the entire engineering crew. Oh, what about it? She asked, with mild confusion, as if the half-meter-long FTL drive bolt sticking through her head, just above her ears, wasn't there. Clearly the wound was recent, as the blood around the wounds on either side of her head hadn't yet dried and still looked disgustingly wet and sticky. There's a bolt, he tried to explain, but stumbled with finding the right words. He finally raised a claw and pointed at his head. Oh, that, she responded with a bright smile. Nothing to worry about, it's just a flesh wound. All heads and eye stalks turned as the kitchen door opened. Everyone was hopeful that Brad had finally shown up. Today was prep day and all hands were needed, as they worked together to chop, dice, mince or boil all the primary ingredients required for the next week of meals. It wasn't like him to be late and he hadn't called in sick. Initially, everyone was pleased when they recognized Brad standing in the doorway. That was until everyone got a good look at him. He looked pale and sickly, his skin an odd shade of yellowish green that none of them had ever seen on a human before. In addition, it appeared there were some wounds with skin peeled back on his face. Strangely, despite the damage, the wounds didn't appear to be bleeding. You could see the muscle usually hidden beneath the skin, but the damage looked unusually dry and didn't pour out blood like usually seen on a human head wound. There weren't even very many drips of blood underneath the wounds, and what little blood was there apparently dried. And was that a human bite mark on his neck? Brad, are you feeling okay? Head Chef Barblock asked, as he put down a pot of shulker roots he had been about to boil into a nutrient broth. His tentacles then waved nervously in the air as he was unsure what to do. Can human skin even turn green? Chamal asked Chelsha, after tapping her on the thorax with his tentacle. Should we be calling in a medical emergency? Brad just stood there, his eyes still vacant, but his head now slowly scanning the room. His gaze finally locked onto Kerala, a bipedal being who closely resembled humans, except for their head, which looked like an oversized jellyfish with a pinkish mass on top. The mass was a strange sort of compound eye, which allowed them to see with 360-degree vision. For whatever reason, Brad seemed fascinated by it. Suddenly, Brad lurched forward towards Kerala with arms outstretched, but hands limp. Everyone in the kitchen screamed in shock and stepped back as he not only approached their co-worker, but also bellowed out in a low groan, "Brains!" Minorik approached the serving table with a gentle patter, as all 10 of his short legs propelled him forward. He extended an eye stalk to read the sign above 2 round pans containing an unknown food substance. Above the unknown foods was a handwritten sign in barely legible human script that his translation matrix told him stated, "Apple and pumpkin pie. Eat me." Turning a second eye stalk to do a quick scan of the room, he found humans eating large slices of these foods happily, but few other crews seemed to be partaking. One human seemed to be slavering his slice with a creamy white substance, before taking great enjoyment of his first bite. Around him, the other humans were encouraging the crew to go and get some of this pie. A glance at the table with the pies revealed a large bowl of the white, creamy substance, with a serving spoon sticking out of it. Cautious of anything unknown, Minorik pulled out his bioscanner and waved it over the food items. It quickly chirped an alarm regarding the extreme caloric density, along with high amounts of a substance called cinnamon, a human spice well documented to cause digestive issues for a number of sapient races. He tried to hide his alarm and simply gave one of the humans that noticed him a polite wave of his eye stalks. He turned away from the buffet line slowly and made his way to the door. He hoped that none of the humans noticed he had entered and left without eating or grabbing food to go. Once outside the mess hall, he hastily grabbed his communicator and called the security officer on duty. "Please inform the captain I believe the humans are attempting a mutiny by poisoning the crew," he said in a panic over comms. "They have served unknown substances labelled as pies, which contain excessive amounts of sugar in sufficient quantities to create extreme digestive distress in the majority of the crew. They also contain spices such as cinnamon, which are known irritants for some of our co-workers. As if that isn't bad enough, they have some thick, white, creamy sauce substance next to it that is even more densely loaded with sugar. I truly believe they are trying to poison us." "Captain?" First Officer Zerlich called out, in a short voice of concern. "I am receiving disturbing reports from all over the ship regarding our human crew members. One even claims they are trying to poison us with an unknown substance they have labelled as pie. How shall we proceed?" Captain Calvos clicked the pincers on the end of all 4 arms in shock. "Show me the reports immediately." Zerlich extended a tentacle with a data slate, open to an index of reports received in the last 20 minutes, as shift change took place. The captain accepted it graciously in one pincer, while another tapped on the icons to bring up the most serious reports. His 2 unoccupied pincers then began to click rapidly, in a rhythm of deep concern. "What's today's date?" Captain Calvas asked, as he continued to flip through the reports. "Sir, it is a standardized date, 43172.64, the first officer reported professionally. Captain Calvos made a few taps on the data slate and selected the option to convert the standardized date into human standard. He then slowly exhaled through his mandibles, causing them to clack loudly. "I see," he said, after a long pause, before getting up slowly and speaking solemnly. "This will require drastic measures." He walked over to the emergency supplies box, the one which only the captain has access to. The one which contained anti-personnel weapons for pirate boardings, and other, we hope we never need these, supplies. Everyone on the bridge stood stiffly in fear as the captain opened the emergency box and started to go through it, with all 4 arms. First, he pulled out what appeared to be a rusty handsaw and clipped it to his belt. Next, he pulled out a folded white piece of clothing, which turned out to be an apron. The captain used his upper arms to tie the upper straps behind his neck, while his other 2 arms tied the lower straps behind his waist. With one swift move, he grabbed a tube from inside the supply box and made 2 quick slashing motions across his chest. Each motion caused a thick and distinct line of deep red liquid to squirt out onto the front of the apron. The liquid continued to drip down and stain the front of the apron, giving it a truly ugly and messy appearance. Finally, the captain pulled out a small holotransmitter and clipped it to the upper left of the apron before closing and securing the emergency supply box. Looking down at the apron, the captain gave himself a satisfied nod and then flicked on the holotransmitter. Above his shoulder now floated a bold neon advertisement that proudly declared, "Calvas Surgical Services. Today's special, complete lobotomy. Only 50 credits. XO, you have the bridge, and please call medical and inform them that I will require my human annual surgical suite," the captain then stated formally. Yes, sir," Zerlik responded fearfully, and sent the message while the captain appeared to be gathering his personal effects. Hopefully the medical staff would advise on how to handle the captain's sudden mental instability. A few minutes later, his station dinged with a response from the medical team. Sir? Yes, what is it? Captain Calvos asked as he started towards the door. Chief Medical Officer Nornoka regrets to inform you that his samples of brain tartar will require 30 human minutes to prepare, the first officer stammered out. Understandable, said Captain Calvos. Good food always takes time to prepare, and he'll have plenty of business once I begin my work. Carry on. Sir? Zerlik asked hesitantly. What are we supposed to carry on doing in these strange circumstances? Keep working on normal ship functions, of course, the captain bellowed out as he left the bridge. After all, it's just another day in space. Routes to plot, cargo to deliver, maintenance to be done. Get on it. Zerlik, what are we supposed to do? Navigation Officer Manor asked, with clear fear and confusion. The humans have gone insane, the captain just joined them, and the chief medical officer is also part of it? Can you declare the captain incompetent without medical approval? And if you can't, who are we going to call? As the bridge door closed, and the captain disappeared down the corridor leading to medical, a sultry human female voice rang out over the ship's public address system. Has life gotten you down? Is there too much going on between your ears? Well, don't you fear. Brain Specialist Calvos is here. Today only, a full lobotomy costs only 50 credits. Get rid of all those pesky thoughts. And just next door, limb recycling specialist Nornoka is serving up his infamous brain tartar for every limb submitted. Don't have an extra limb to spare? Just hack one off a crewmate. No questions asked. One serving of brain tartar for every limb provided. Must be a full limb to qualify. Fingers and other small appendages may only be exchanged for chocolate, not brain tartar.